Level 1, the courier. You're standing in a warehouse parking lot in Phoenix at 2 in the morning next to a U-Haul truck loaded with 47 AR-15 rifles, 23 Glock pistols, and 15,000 rounds of ammunition packed in furniture boxes. A man you've met twice hands you a folded piece of paper with an address in El Paso and $2,000 in cash. Drive straight through, don't stop except for gas, don't speed. Deliver the truck, leave the keys, walk away. You're 23 years old and you're moving guns for a cartel network. The money is better than anything you made working construction. $2,000 for 8 hours of driving. You don't think about where the guns are going or who will use them. You think about the $2,000 in the next job. The border crossing is easy. You tell customs you're moving furniture. He waves you through. You deliver the truck. 3 days later, the same man calls. Another job. At another $2,000, you say yes. Level 2, the broker. 18 months in, you're not driving anymore. You're the middleman between buyers in Mexico and suppliers in the United States. You arrange straw purchases where people with clean records buy guns legally and sell them to you illegally. You pay them $300 per gun. You sell the guns to the cartel for $800. You're moving 200 guns a month. That's $100,000. You keep 20%. $20,000 a month tax-free. You recruit buyers, people with gambling debts, people with drug problems, people desperate enough to commit a federal felony for $300. They go to gun stores, fill out Form 4473, lie on the form, pass the background check, walk out with the guns. They meet you in a parking lot. You pay them, you take the guns. The ATF is watching. You know this. Operation Fast and Furious proved they track gun trafficking networks. You're careful. But you never use the same buyer twice in the same city. You rotate locations. You use burner phones. A buyer gets arrested. He tells them about you. You disappear for 3 months. You change phones. You move to a different city. When things cool down, you start again. Level 3, the dealer. 3 years in, you're selling guns directly to buyers who can't pass background checks. Militia groups. Criminals. You operate out of a pawn shop in Tucson. Legal inventory in front. Illegal inventory in the back. Ghost guns assembled from kits. Stolen weapons with filed-off serials. Foreign weapons smuggled from Mexico, AK-47s, grenades, explosives. A customer wants an untraceable pistol, Glock 19 with the serial filed off, $1,500. He pays cash, no paperwork, no background check, no record. He walks out and you never think about him again. 2 weeks later, that gun is used in a murder in Phoenix, a convenience store robbery. The clerk is 22 years old. Shot twice in the chest. The police recover the gun at the scene. There's no serial, no way to trace it. The case goes cold. The clerk's mother appears on the news begging for information. You watch it while eating dinner and you feel nothing. This is business. What people do with the product after they buy it is not your concern. You've told yourself this so many times you almost believe it. The ATF raids your pawn shop. They have a warrant. They seize 140 guns. They arrest you. You're charged with dealing firearms without a license, possession of firearms with obliterated serial numbers, and conspiracy. You make bail. $50,000 posted by someone you've never met. Your lawyer is expensive and very good. He gets the evidence suppressed on a Fourth Amendment violation. The warrant was based on information from a confidential informant who turned out to be unreliable. The case is dismissed. You're free, but you're burned in Tucson. The ATF knows your face. They know your operation. You can't stay. You move to Dallas and start again under a different name. Level 4. The logistics coordinator. 6 years in. You plan shipments, you coordinate routes, you manage drivers and safe houses where guns are stored. You work with trucking companies that don't ask questions. You use shipping containers labeled agricultural equipment or car parts. Inside are crates of rifles and ammunition. You ship to ports in Mexico, warehouses in Central America, conflict zones in Africa and the Middle East where governments and warlords pay top dollar for American weapons. An AR-15 costs $600 in Arizona. It sells for $3,000 in Libya. A crate of 50 rifles costs $30,000. It sells for $150,000. The profit margins are obscene. You need fake end-user certificates claiming the weapons are going to legitimate buyers. A police force. A military. You pay forgers in Eastern Europe $2,000 per certificate. You need customs brokers who will look the other way when a container labeled tractor parts weighs 12,000 pounds. You pay them $5,000 per shipment. Everyone gets paid. The system runs on bribes and fake paperwork and willful ignorance. A shipment gets intercepted at the port of Veracruz. Mexican authorities seize 80 rifles. You lose $40,000. This is the cost of doing business. You reroute future shipments through different ports. You pay more bribes. You keep moving. Level 5. The enforcer. You handle problems. Buyers who don't pay. Suppliers who steal. Couriers who talk to law enforcement, you handle these problems with violence because violence is the only language this business understands. A dealer in Houston owes $120,000. He's been ducking calls for 3 weeks. You find him at his girlfriend's apartment. You bring 2 men. You knock on the door. He answers. You push your way in. You break his hand with a hammer. The sound of bones cracking, his screaming, his girlfriend screaming in the corner. You tell him he has 72 hours to pay, or you come back and it's not his hand. He pays $60,000 up front, the rest in installments. A competitor starts selling in El Paso, your territory. He's undercutting prices. He's taking your customers. You meet with him. You offer to buy him out. He refuses. He tells you to go fuck yourself. 2 weeks later, his warehouse burns down. 200 guns destroyed. $500,000 in inventory gone. He gets the message. He leaves El Paso. You've killed 3 people. The first was a courier who was arrested and agreed to cooperate with the ATF. You met him in the desert outside Yuma. He thought he was meeting to discuss protection. You shot him in the back of the head, left his body for the coyotes. The second was a buyer who tried to rob you during a transaction. He pulled a gun. You were faster. Self-defense, though that term doesn't apply when the entire transaction is illegal. The third was a mistake. A witness, wrong place, wrong time. A teenager working at a storage facility where you kept inventory. He saw faces he shouldn't have seen. You think about that one sometimes. The other 2 were necessary. The third was just a problem that needed solving. But you don't lose sleep over it, but you remember his face. You carry 3 burner phones and a pistol everywhere. You assume law enforcement is watching. You assume informants are everywhere. You trust no one. Paranoia keeps you alive. Level 6, the regional manager. 10 years in, you oversee operations in the entire Southwest. Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. You manage dealers, logistics coordinators, enforcers. You report to someone higher, but you don't know who. The organization is compartmentalized. You know your region, you don't know the full structure. This protects everyone. If you're arrested, you can't testify about operations you don't know about. You're bringing in $3 million a month. You take 10%, $300,000 a month. You've accumulated $4 million in offshore accounts. Properties in Mexico and the Cayman Islands purchased through shell companies. You live in a house in Scottsdale worth $2 million. You drive a Range Rover. You have a girlfriend who thinks you're a real estate developer. You don't correct her. The ATF, FBI, and DEA have opened a joint task force targeting your organization. Operation Iron River. They've been building a case for 18 months. They have wiretaps on phones you thought were secure. They have surveillance cameras you didn't know existed. They have informants you trusted. They're working their way up the chain. Low-level couriers are flipping. Dealers are making deals. Each arrest brings them closer to you. Your lawyer monitors federal indictments. He tells you an indictment is coming. Maybe 6 months, maybe less. You sit in your Scottsdale house looking at your girlfriend sleeping and you realize you have a decision to make. Run or stay. If you run, you lose everything in the United States. The house, the cars, the girlfriend, the life you've built. If you stay, you might beat the charges. Good lawyers. Compartmentalized operations. A reasonable doubt. Or you might spend the rest of your life in federal prison. You start moving money, liquidating assets, transferring funds to accounts in countries without extradition treaties. You're preparing to disappear. Level 7, the international connection. You don't just move American guns south, you move foreign guns north. You have connections in Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, countries with surplus Cold War weapons. You buy AK-47s for $200. You ship them through the Caribbean to Mexico. You sell them to cartels for $2,000. You also have connections in Libya, Yemen, Syria, conflict zones where weapons flow freely and governments have collapsed. You buy from corrupt military officials who sell government stockpiles, crates of rifles that were supposed to be destroyed. You ship through third countries using fake end-user certificates. A container holds 10,000 rifles. Cost, $2 million. Sale price, $20 million. You do this 6 times a year, that's $108 million in revenue. You keep 5%, $5.4 million a year. You've accumulated $28 million over 5 years. You have homes in 3 countries. You travel on 4 passports. None of them carry your real name. You speak 3 languages. You've never been arrested. You've never been indicted. Interpol has a file on you, but they don't have a photo. They have a name, but it's not your real name. You're a ghost. You're untouchable until you're not. Level 8, the financier. You manage the money. $200 million a year flowing through a network of shell companies, offshore banks, real estate holdings, and cash businesses. You launder it. You make dirty money clean. You structure transactions to avoid triggering reporting requirements. You use trade-based money laundering, over-invoicing imports, under-invoicing exports. You own currency exchanges, car dealerships, casinos. Businesses where cash is normal. You use hawalas, informal value transfer systems where no money actually crosses borders. You pay a hawaladar in Texas $1 million. His counterpart in Mexico pays your contact $1 million minus a fee. No wire transfer, no bank record, just trust and ledgers that are never written down. The IRS, FinCEN, and DEA are tracking your money. They're building financial profiles. They're following transactions through shell companies. They've identified patterns. You stay ahead by constantly creating new entities, new accounts, new routes. A bank freezes one of your accounts. Suspicious activity report filed with FinCEN. The account held $4 million. You lose it, you write it off. The cost of doing business. You have 50 other accounts. Level 9, the kingpin. 15 years in, you run the empire. You don't touch guns anymore. You don't touch money. You provide direction. You make strategic decisions. You approve major shipments. Well, you authorize executions. You negotiate with cartels, with warlords, with governments. You're responsible for moving $500 million worth of weapons annually. You employ 2,000 people across 4 continents. Most don't know they work for you. They work for subsidiaries, for shell companies, for legitimate businesses that serve as fronts. The FBI has been investigating you for 7 years. They have a task force of 40 agents dedicated to bringing you down. They've arrested 63 people connected to your organization. They've seized $400 million in assets. But they don't have you. They don't have evidence that directly connects you to specific crimes. Everything is compartmentalized, insulated, protected by lawyers and shell companies and jurisdictions that don't cooperate with American law enforcement. Then an informant emerges. Your logistics coordinator, the one you trusted for 8 years. He was arrested in a DEA raid in Houston. He's facing 40 years. He agrees to cooperate. He wears a wire for 6 months. He records conversations. He documents shipments. He provides organizational charts with your name at the top. The FBI arrests you at your home in Panama at dawn. 20 agents in tactical gear, helicopters overhead. They extradite you to the United States on a chartered plane. You land in Miami in handcuffs. You're charged with conspiracy to violate the Arms Export Control Act, money laundering, murder for hire, racketeering, 53 counts. The trial lasts 4 months. The prosecution presents wiretaps, surveillance footage, testimony from a dozen cooperating witnesses. The informant testifies for 3 days. He describes the organization in detail. He identifies you as the leader. He plays recordings of your voice giving orders. Your lawyers argue reasonable doubt. Compartmentalization. The informant is a liar saving himself. The jury doesn't buy it. They deliberate for 6 days. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentences you to life in federal prison without possibility of parole. You're 52 years old. You'll die in prison. The $28 million in offshore accounts will be seized. The homes will be forfeited. The empire will collapse without you. Someone else will take your place. They always do. Level 10. The cycle. Somewhere right now, a 23-year-old is standing in a warehouse parking lot in Phoenix next to a U-Haul truck. A man he's met twice is handing him a folded piece of paper with an address and $2,000 in cash. Drive straight through. Don't stop except for gas. The kid doesn't know what he's getting into. He doesn't know about the ATF task forces that will build cases for years. The informants who will wear wires. The indictments that will come when he least expects them. He doesn't know about the violence that will become normal. The bodies in the desert. The hands broken with hammers. The teenagers killed for being in the wrong place. He doesn't know about the moral compromises that start small and grow until you're trafficking weapons to warlords and cartels and rebel groups who use them to kill civilians. He doesn't know about the money that seems unlimited until the accounts get frozen and the assets get seized and the lawyers bill $1 million to lose at trial. Yeah, he doesn't know about the prisons where arms traffickers spend life sentences in federal supermax facilities where the sun doesn't reach and human contact is measured in minutes per week. He doesn't know about the 15-year journey from courier to kingpin that ends with handcuffs and an extradition flight and a sentence that guarantees you die behind bars. He just knows that $2,000 for 8 hours of driving is better than anything he's made working construction. And he takes the money. He gets in the truck. He drives. The cycle begins.